Welcome back to the Everyday Agile YouTube channel. Normally, obviously, this is a podcast. Unfortunately, we had a few people drop out, so we've got some time to spare. And although it's an absolute cop-out, I thought it would be a good idea to ask our good friend, uncle or auntie, ChatGPT, to come up with 10 interview questions for an agile coach, which yours truly will do my best to answer. Hopefully they'll come up on the screen as well. Calvin over there will do his magic.
Oh, I will.
So it's not just me talking at you. So let's go. Number one, how would you define agile beyond just the frameworks? Good question, Mr. ChatGPT. I would just define that as being able to be nimble and flexible, not being bogged down by too many processes, and we want to release something to our customers early and often to make sure we're doing the right thing. Number two, what does a great agile coach actually do for a team or organization? I think being there consistently really helps, especially early on, not being dogmatic with their preferred tool, framework, or way of doing things. Not being too biased, not being too judgmental. But I think ultimately they will help both teams and leadership and, everyone at every level really be more confident that they can back themselves and actually be more agile with a small a, to keep up with their competitors, to keep up with the market, to be more experimental with their ways of working. And a bit like the first question, to get stuff out there more frequently in a way that doesn't damage the organization's reputation, doesn't cause too much technical debt, and doesn't make things a right pain in the arse going forward. If an agile coach is left somewhere with a trail of destruction, that's not a good place to be in. What's the most common misunderstanding about agile you encounter? That it can just be switched on overnight is probably the biggest one. Turning 20 teams on after sending them on a Scrum course, for example, and hoping they're just going to adapt and work in this new way the next week. That's just not gonna happen. So I think the time it takes to actually help implement this stuff and actually see the benefits, it can take a long time. It doesn't happen overnight, which is sometimes what people think. How do you build trust and psychological safety within teams? Now, I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this. Psychological safety means different things to different people. There's a very famous book about it by a lady called Amy Edmondson, I believe. I think people like to talk about psychological safety, but when it comes to it, sometimes they don't really back it up. This is you can't just tell someone this is a safe space. This is a psychologically safe culture. You can't just tell someone that. I think you have to live it. You have to breathe it. You have to work hard in the culture to ensure that people can show up to work in the most authentic way possible. Now, my opinion is that I don't think any of us actually show up to work truly ourselves. I think there's always going to be a bit of ourselves that we keep, for our private lives, or we're just not comfortable sharing in the workplace. For me, just because of my old job, a warship, that version of psychological safety is very much different to the corporate environment. You just have to. It's a very easy thing to say, but I think it takes a lot of hard work, and I don't really think any of us turn up to work completely ourselves. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know. What are the signs that a team is going through the motions instead of truly being agile? I know Scrum and Agile are different things. Agile is the umbrella, 4 values, 12 principles made for and by software engineers and all of that good stuff, and Scrum is a framework. But one of the red flags I would look out for is teams choosing Scrum and just going through the motions of the events. So they have a daily Scrum, but it turns into a status report. They have a sprint review, but it's just a PowerPoint presentation. They're not releasing either at the end of, or they haven't got things that are potentially releasable at the end of the sprint or releasing throughout the sprint. They're still going through, they're only releasing code or releasing product updates 2 or 3 times a year. They're doing a retrospective, but none of the actions are being followed through. Things like that would be tiny red flags that ultimately turn into a big old waving flag. How do you balance following a framework with allowing team autonomy? I think if you're coming in from external, or you're an external consultant or an external contractor, Scrum Master, Agile coach, there is a balance to be had, because ultimately the people you're going to leave behind in the organization know that organization and know the context far better than you will ever do. And they're the ones who, like I said, are going to be left behind. So you have to, I like to go through maybe 4 stages. So you want to align with the people who are bringing you in, which is more often than not the leadership team. What are they after? What do they believe to be true? What are their misconceptions about what you're there to do? Then you want to help educate people. So these are the options on the table, folks. You can then choose to go whichever direction you want, but here's some advice from what I've seen in other organizations. You then want to put it into practice, help them. If they've never done it before, don't just fall into the coaching stance of just asking them questions. You may have to put yourself out there a bit more to really help and show and tell them. Don't just show them. Don't just tell them, show them. And then obviously the 4th stage is mastery, which we're always in pursuit of. So you want to align, educate, put into practice, and then pursue mastery. How does that help with autonomy? Because you're putting the decision in their hands while guiding them through that process. Because like I said, they are the ones that are going to be left behind. What advice would you give to leaders who want to support Agile without micromanaging? Be clear with what you're wanting people to do, and more importantly, why you are doing it in the first place. Especially in big organizations, most of them have got there because what they have done, what they have been doing, for a number of years has worked. So why do they need to change? What's in it for the people on the coalface? You need to be able to step away. You need to maybe get some coaching and mentoring to help you draw up those boundaries. If you're used to firefighting and solving every single problem for people, it can be quite hard to step back, but it can be done. You just need to be deliberate in your efforts to stop that micromanaging and give people a chance. You've hired them. They're skilled individuals. You are there to be on the crow's nest, if you like, to draw again on another ship analogy, to see if there's any icebergs ahead, and let the people, thrive and do what they need to do. How do you measure whether Agile is working in an organization? I mean, there's so many maturity models and questionnaires out there, but ultimately, so this is Agile with a capital A. Are we releasing earlier and often? Are we decreasing technical debt? Are we prototyping? Are we getting an increased amount of proper MVPs out there? So minimum viable products, which test assumptions. MVP should answer the question of, should this thing be built? Not could it be built? Most things can be built, but we need to test if anyone's even interested in it. What's our churn rate? Are people leaving? What's the feedback from new joiners? Are they bought into the culture? What are our customers saying? What are our Trustpilot reviews saying? how many people are downloading what we're building. There's so many ways apart from just, are we delivering more? That's probably the takeaway from this question. It's not just about, are we delivering more? Are we delivering more of the right thing in a shorter amount of time, incrementally? What role should an agile coach play in a large-scale transformation? I think it goes back to that alignment point that I said before. You really need to understand what you're being asked to help with if you're entering an organization as an agile coach or some sort of consultant. You're not going to be able to fight every battle. You're not going to be in the room for every decision. So I would literally draw a circle with the people that are bringing you into the organization and say, okay, folks, what do you think's in, what's in my remit here? This is what I think. Do you agree with this? Are you on board with me trying new experiments with the team, or am I going to have to go through certain people? So what role should an agile coach play in a large scale transformation? They should be there to be useful, to help guide, bring their experience to the table, not just say it depends all the time. You could say things like, it depends, but this is what I've seen in my previous organization, or this is the experience I've had elsewhere. We can try it. Put yourself on the line a bit. If you've got an idea, say, folks, this is my idea. And if it goes wrong, that point people in the direction of me. Take some pressure away from the leadership team as well. And finally, how do you see Agile evolving over the next few years, especially with AI on the rise? That's an interesting one. I think there's a lot of talk about Agile being dead. Ironically, that's people who but most of the people who say that are writing on LinkedIn. I think for most organizations who don't buy into that echo chamber and don't consume LinkedIn content, they are still going to want to get stuff done, and they are going to need people to help them get that done. Whether it, vibe coding, again, in terms of the AI part of that question, it's only going to help you get so far at the moment. We all know it's going to evolve, but it's very good for prototyping. It's very good for getting things out there quickly from an MVP point of view. But you're still going to need skilled engineers to do, to plug in the back end, to do the more complex work. I think agile practitioners, agile coaches, scrum masters, they're going to have to really up their game to make sure they're adding that value. But I do think AI will help with the ruthless productivity. So coming up with formats, putting things, doing the admin stuff that, whether you like it or not, sometimes an agile coach or a scrum master just has to do it. We all have to do it. Agile coaches and scrum masters aren't special. But I think it's going to help with the ruthless productivity side, so you can concentrate more on the people, bringing people together, facilitating, coaching, mentoring leaders so they can then help themselves. So that's how they're my thoughts on those 10 questions. If you've got any comments, do let me know. If you like this video, there will probably be another one that you're interested in around there or around there, depending on where it goes, which you'll probably enjoy as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.